We should read in a low voice when we are by ourselves, hoping to develop sincerity, striving to develop sincerity. If no one is wrong for us to disturb them, then we may recite in a loud voice this Qur'an. Once again, to concentrate and focus on what we are doing, and to develop the sincerity in what we are doing. Also, as part of the external etiquette of reciting this Qur'an, strive to recite the Qur'an in a beautiful, melodious voice. Because there are many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that tells us of the importance of beautifying our recitation of the Qur'an. In one of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says that he is not from us who does not beautify the recitation of this Qur'an. And so we should strive to beautify this recitation of the Qur'an. And this is an amazing art that has been developed in the Muslim culture for these past 14 centuries. That many are the great scholars of qira'ah, of recitation of Qur'an, the qari from different countries that have become very much well known throughout the ummah because of the way they've developed their voices, and they can recite this Qur'an in such a beautiful tone that it moves us to tears when we listen to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We remember the great reciters from Al-Azhar al-Sharif, the noble institution of Al-Azhar in Cairo, Egypt, the oldest university in the world, the first university in the world that was established. Al-Azhar al-Sharif, producing great reciters. The name of Shaykh Abdul-Basit Abdul-Samad comes to mind. The name of Shaykh Minshawi, Muhammad al-Siddiq al-Minshawi, and many other names that we can mention. Great reciters of the Qur'an. And the Imam of the Haram al-Sharif, whether it's Imam Sudais, Imam al-Hudayfi of Masjid al-Nabawi in Medina. These great reciters of the Qur'an, when they recite the Qur'an, they move us to tears. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that if someone cause you to cry when they recite the Qur'an, bear witness of their iman, or bear witness to their iman, the iman which is in the heart, that we don't know of, but there are certain actions, outward actions that manifest that iman, and this is one of it that's mentioned in the hadith. If someone, when they recite Qur'an, they will bring tears to your eyes, that is a sign of their iman that we can bear witness for in this dunya and in the akhirah. And so, this art of reciting the Qur'an in a beautiful voice has been developed in this ummah more so than any other ummah or any other civilization. That it has become an area of specialization in universities, that someone can study many years to become a qari, to become a specialist in the recitation of the Holy Qur'an. So for us now, we want to strive to recite the Qur'an in as beautiful a voice as we can. Not to compete with others or to try to be like them, no, but in our own way to strive to the best of our ability to recite this Qur'an in a beautiful voice. Why? Because it is a book of Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that we should strive to recite this Qur'an in a beautiful way. These are some of the external rules of reverence with respect to this Qur'an that we should recite. And especially so in the month of Ramadan, that we spend many hours in the night and perhaps inshallah many hours in the day, and especially after each of the 5 daily salah, to recite portions of the book of Allah, to establish this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the book of Allah, that we should strive to do. And so be mindful about this. The Qur'an is this special book. The month of Ramadan is the month of the Qur'an. Many are the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that tells us or invites us to reciting this Qur'an. But we want to start off today by establishing some ground rules and we've done the external etiquette that we should be mindful of. There is the internal etiquettes that we would deal with in our next program, inshallah. But be mindful of the external things that we mentioned today. And in summary, be mindful of being in a state of wudu when we are reciting this Qur'an, because this is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I must also add that there are many hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam that talks about the virtues of wudu and inviting us to be in a state of wudu, in a state of purification at all times. For everything. Now we're talking about reciting Qur'an. We know, of course, it's a fiqhi requirement. It's a rule of jurisprudence that if we want to perform salah, we have to perform wudu. We have to be in a state of wudu. Because there is no salah if we are not in a state of wudu. Even if we perform our salah and we recite all of Surah Al-Baqarah in one rakat of salah, but we don't have wudu, that action is wasted. Because it's a necessary and essential prerequisite for the acceptance and correctness of salah that we be in a state of wudu. But in addition to that, try to be in wudu at all times throughout our day. If we break our wudu or nullify our wudu, renew our wudu. Even if we don't have to recite Qur'an, even though we don't have to pray salah, but be in a state of wudu, because this is, the scholars have mentioned, Imam Shadhili among them radiallahu anhu said that this is a cause for the barak of Allah to flow in our lives. The barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will flow in our lives if we are constantly in a state of wudu. So be in a state of wudu. Sit facing the Qibla. And once again, all good actions that we do, we should face the Qibla if possible. And if we're able to face a Qibla in reciting Qur'an, we should try to do that. But not only Qur'an, but any good actions that we're doing, try to face the Qibla. Out of reverence for the Kaaba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first house of worship that was established. Many are the great blessings that the scholars of Tasawwuf have mentioned about this. Recite with tartil, in a slow, rhythmic, measured tone. Recite beautifully. Respond to the ayah of mercy, the ayah of punishment, and other ayahs in an appropriate way, and develop sincerity in our recitation of Qur'an. Try to develop ikhlas and niyyah, sincerity of purpose in reciting this Qur'an, this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with His blessings in the month of Ramadan and throughout the year. Bless our families and bless our children and bless the entire Muslim community and unite us in this dunya and reunite us in His Jannah in the Akhirah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.